Hello! Welcome to a new Weird Beard dev stream. I'm all by myself this time because today we're doing something new again. We're gonna try to do some programming. So this will be a bit technical today, but most of the stuff I'll show you will still be pretty visual because what we're gonna make today is a prototype of the new beam for the wizard, because every time a wizard casts a spell, it does this magic beam that goes up in the air, and well, we've done that mostly through animations lately, but I thought it would be nice to try a different approach. The approach I'm gonna do is there's gonna be this big beam in the middle of your character, and there's gonna be some stuff swirling around it and looking very, well, magical, hopefully. So I'll show you what I've set up right now. I'm gonna transition, so there we are. So as you can see, I'll be watching my screen a lot, so sorry for not looking to the camera, but basically what we have set up right now is a background to have a little bit of context as what I'm seeing, and I have a beam object. And basically what that beam is a big giant cylinder, and that cylinder consists of a lot of small triangles. This is how 3D objects work. So you can see I can go and turn it around a little bit, and basically this is it's even overlapping in the background a little bit, so I can move the background out like that. Whoop. All right. So basically what I'm going to write today is a shader, and a shader is something that takes a 3D object, and it can do two things. It can change the positions of all these little triangles. That's one thing I'm going to use, and the second step it does is basically color every single pixel of this object. So you'll see in a minute what I'm talking about. So let's get right to it. I'll show you a quick example in a minute. For example, if I go to my code, this is all the code that's happening. There's a lot of stuff in here, but you can ignore most of it right now because it's not really used so far. So here's the part that actually says, hey, return me the color of every pixel in this object. The fun thing is I can do that at runtime. So I can say, well, the color is not a sample from the texture, but let's make it red, which means like this. And now it says red should be 1 and the other color should be 0. So if I'm not mistaken, it should be red. There we are. So this is one thing this is just one super small thing you can do with shaders. But we're gonna do it a little bit more advanced. So what I want to do is make a swirl around this beam, this cylinder, and how I'm gonna do that is by using a sine wave. If you don't know what a sine wave is, I'll show you real quick in Google. Sine wave. This is a sine wave. As you can see, it wobbles up and down. This is just a mathematical function we can use, and I'm going to use this function to make the beam wobble a little bit back and forth. So for example, if I go into this part, this is the part that actually shows you how to change every position of a, well, it's called a vertex. It's like a point on the beam. So for example, I can go into here and I can say, hey, I want this vertex, I want the X position to have a little bit more, I want to change the X position by putting a sine wave on the Y position. And as you can see now, it looks very weird already. You can see it's all going all ways. So this already does some cool stuff, I think, but not enough. So I'm gonna move this here. So right. So the first thing that I need to do is, let's see. This is all on the fly. It's pretty scary because I need to talk and think at the same time, which is really hard. Let's see. So we're gonna create a new property called the amount of bulge. The bulge amount. That's the amount we want to have the beam extrude to the outside a little bit. And I'm gonna base that on a sine wave. I take the current position in the x value times 3.14, which is pi, times 2 times the amount of bands I want. I'll explain later what that is. Bands equals 5, like that, like that. Bands. Alright. So, next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the vertex and I'm taking the XYZ, that's the world position of the little point, the little triangle in the world. XYZ are the positions. So X is horizontal, Y is vertical, and Z is depth. And I'm gonna take the normal. I'll explain what the normal is in a minute. Normal dot XYZ times the bulge amount, like that. And we should, oh, there's a error in my script somewhere. I think this should be it. No. I see it, like that. I haven't defined what the normal is yet, but I'll explain it right now, because right now I'm getting an error because it says, hey, there's no normal in this script. What do you mean by normal? And what a normal is you can see this cylinder has all these different sides. And a normal is basically an arrow that tells you what way this little triangle is pointing at. And you can use that for all sorts of things. So I'm gonna add that to my shader. Oh, I need to watch the chat a little bit. So we have Nick and we have Christian. Hello, nice that you are joining us. So what I'm gonna show you is a new kind of beam. The beam is like the effect that a wizard has when he casts a new spell, and I'm gonna make a completely coded one instead of animating everything. So let's see. I need to add the normal to my data so I can actually use it. Oh, there we are. Oh, this is looking weird already. I don't know if you can see this pretty well, but right now, if I look at the top of my cylinder, it's not a cylinder anymore. I'll turn it off real quick, see what it does. Right here. So now it's a normal cylinder. And if I turn it on, yep, it goes all different ways. It's a little bit weird. So I'm gonna tweak it a little bit. Let's see. How am I gonna do that? Right. So first of all, I think it's going a little bit far. Like it's a little bit too much. So I'm gonna do this and divide it by 2. Like that. And I take this again and I'll scale it a little bit so it's a little bit less, like that. And look at that already. It's already a lot less heavy. So now what's happening is that the outside of the cylinder is getting a wavy pattern. You can only see the outside. So when I'm looking in, you can't see the other side. But if I'm rotating around this, you can actually see that it shows all vertices. What I want to do now is, instead of having this thing go in the same pattern from the top to the bottom, make it a little bit more interesting by taking into account that at what height I'm currently at. So the higher I'm getting in the beam, the more it offsets these wobbly parts on the side. So I can do that right here in the part where it's using this. This is basically saying, hey, I want to use a sine wave on the X position of this beam, and I'm gonna add a little offset to that. Let's see. I'm gonna also take the Y position of this thing and multiply it by some amount, just something right now, 50. Oh, there is something going wrong here. All right. Like that. Yes. Ah, look at that. Wow. Now it's some kind of spirally thing already, as you can see. In the game it's still flat, because we use a 2D camera. But in 3D you can already see how it's getting some shape. What we also can do is use the time that has passed to tweak it a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the time that the game has been running and add that as a sort of an offset. So we'll do that. We'll take the time. Let's see, I think it's this. Yes. Time plus Y. Like that. And let's see. Let's do it like this. Times that. Yep. Like that. I think we should. Yep. It's moving alright. So you can see it's moving a little bit. It's making these weird wobbly movements, which is pretty cool, but still not very interesting because it's really slow. So I'm gonna speed it up a little. So speed is, now it's moving down. So I guess I want it to move up instead of down, because magic always goes up. Oh, that's not the correct one. This one. And I want it to go pretty fast, I think. Oh, there we are. Look at that. That's also pretty cool. Let's see, is there anything in the questions? I never understood everything of Joran's code, but the results are pretty awesome. Well, thank you. I hope, if you have any questions about this, feel free to ask, but I'm assuming a small amount of knowledge of how programming works. I can't explain every single thing that I'm doing. I'll try to do that, but yeah, this is basically the least amount of detail I need to show you how this works. But you can already tell that some cool stuff is happening. Every single triangle is getting pushed in and out of this cylinder just by some code, and it's already looking like some awesome weird magic that's going on, right? I mean, this looks pretty cool already, but still in the game it's flat, because the game is just a flat thing that you can see and there's nothing really happening. So one thing that we might want to do is add some color to this, so you can actually see some more stuff happening instead of just a white wobbly line, because it's pretty boring right now, I think. So what I'm gonna do is go to the code. This was the part that moves all the triangles around, and this is the part that's actually making the color of every single pixel of this beam. So what I'm gonna do is take this bulge amount, which is now some kind of value that I'm using right here, and I'm gonna put that in a property that I can use in the color part. So I'm gonna make a new property that's called bulge, it is the text scored 1. Don't mind this. I'm not gonna explain everything. This is just a way to pass information from one part of the shader to the other. And I'm gonna say, hey, this thing dot bulge is a float2 with the bulge amount passed in and nothing on the other side. I can use this later, but I'll do that at a later point. All right, so we already said that we can give something a cool color by just showing it like this. There we are. Now it's red. Red is kind of boring. I think it should be green. So this is green, this is red. So now it's green. Look at that. Ain't she a beauty? But I think this is not alright. I want the amount that the vertices are being pushed out of the cylinder be the factor that determines what color it should be. And since we're passing that along, I could try to do this. Bulge.x, and oh, look at that. Now it's getting some shape. Now we can actually see something happening, right? I mean, this is already pretty awesome. Christian's asking, is it hard to code if you know basics, and is Unity good for beginners? I think Unity is a very nice way to start using code for games, but the problem is that Unity is just the engine where you can make games in, and if you want to learn programming, you'll need a little bit of experience in programming itself before you can start using it in stuff like Unity, because Unity is just the stuff around making games, and the code itself is either C# or JavaScript. And if you don't know any of those two, then you're gonna have a hard time, because you'll need some knowledge about what programming is and how to do stuff in order to get the best results. The code I'm doing right now is something called CG program, and that's shader language. That's even a level deeper in what Unity can do, and I'm a beginner at this stuff, so I was very happy to try this stuff out and see some nice results. But I'm going to continue now. If you have more questions, ask me, but I'm going to show you some more, because I think having a black inside is a little bit too dark. I think it should be white, and the more amount of extrusion on the outside, the more green it should get. So let's see what happens if I do this. Alright, now it's green on the inside and black on the outside, which is not necessarily what I want. So I'm going to change some properties here. That's not exactly... So I want it to be completely green except for the outside. So I think something like this. Ah, look at that. This is getting somewhere. Summer's asking if you are interested in making a game yourself at some point. That's a good question. I like that. I'm curious what you guys can come up with. You had some pretty good ideas about Tricky Towers as well, which you can still drop at stuff like Reddit or our forums at Steam. So, but let's continue on this. So we got a pretty good beam going on right now, and I think it looks pretty neat already, but it's a bit boring because right now I can move around with the values of the speed and the amount of these spiral things that are in there. I mean, I can make them a little bit like that, so I can tweak that to make it interesting. But what really makes it interesting is some randomization. And what I mean with randomization is that stuff is not always the same. So it looks a little bit more natural, because right now it's just way too perfect. You can see randomization in our game anywhere. I mean, the bricks that you are getting, the order of bricks is random because it's never the same. And the waves, the tiny little waves in the background you can see here, like these little things, they are not moving right now because it's an image, but those are random as well. Sometimes they pop up, sometimes they don't. Completely random. So I already took a little bit of liberty to implement some stuff for this. Because if I want right now, I can take some noise. Let's call it N. And I have a noise function, and I'm taking the I need to move this here. I'm taking this vector like that, and I'm gonna add that to my bulge. This is probably gonna look horrible, but I'm gonna try it anyway. Like that. So I'm making some noise. Noise is basically a weird cloud sort of pattern. And I'm taking that and I'm adding that to the amount of I want the extrusion to happen. Let's see what happens. Not very much right now. Let's see if I can tweak it a little bit more. I think that's because this is not scaled correctly. This should help. No, that's not correct. Oh, hold on. I keep forgetting that. Ah, look at that. That's better. Wow. So you can see already that right now it's doing some pretty weird stuff. I mean, there's stuff happening all around and it's looking pretty alien-alike. It's pretty cool. Let's also pass that noise to the coloring. I'm gonna rename this noise amount. That's a little bit more readable. Like that. Yep. And then I'm gonna use that in here. Let's see what happens. This is just some. No, that's not really pretty. Let's do it on the other side, right here. Let's see what that does. Ooh, I'm liking this. This is pretty cool, right? I mean, now it's getting more magical. What else can we do? Oh, I'm gonna tweak the amount of noise and what it does, and I'm gonna do something a little bit different because I'm working in code a lot, but I want to have a little bit more control. So I'm gonna add something that's called a property up in here, which is called noise scale. Right now it should be 1, and I'm gonna add a new property here, noise scale. And I'm gonna multiply my noise amount by the scale. And what happens now is an error. Hold on. Oops. Oh, I see. Ooh. Oh dear. That's quite a lot. Oh, I think why. I think I know why. Basically, I made a new slider now. And that slider controls how much I want to apply noise. So right now there's no noise. And then when I start adding it, it becomes weirder and weirder and weirder. Like this. I can turn it down and turn it up. That's pretty cool. I think it looks nice. So I can tweak this. And the nice thing about this is that I can give this to Samar. And Samar is our game artist. And he can tweak that. And he can play around with it. So let's do that for speed as well. Gonna do this. Add another property. Speed. Speed X, float speed X, alright, and use that in here, and we can remove this. Right, whoa, that's going fast. So I can now make it slow, and I can make it really fast. So now, this is really nice for Samar to play around with. But I still think it looks a little bit boring. I mean, it's pretty cool, but it still could use some, I don't know, some more randomness. Because right now the beam is widely spaced on all sides. And even though that's pretty nice, you can imagine that having a little bit of more randomness in there would be cool. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to take a new noise amount vertical, I think, like that. How am I doing that? Let's see. I'm gonna be honest. I made a little bit of a cheat sheet, so I know what I'm doing. Let's see. Float 2. Float. No. Oh, did you read it? Why? And I'm gonna apply that to this. What's happening now? Oh, that's not right. This is all live. So excuse me if anything goes wrong. All right. I'm not sure if this is the correct way of doing it. Oh, hold on, I missed something. I missed the offset. Like that. And also, let's see. Oh, this is difficult because you guys can't see what I'm doing right now. But I've kind of tried this before, and right now I'm trying to figure out how to do the last part of making this look a little bit more pretty. Ah, Summer is keeping the chat up and running. Thank you, Summer. I think I'm a bit lost in here. Ah, that's alright. I'll do it in I'll do it in another way. So I'm gonna remove that. No, I want to know what's going on. Let's see. So we need to offset, thickness addition, noise spread. No, I don't know what's going on. That's gonna be something for later. That's fine. Or is it just doing this? 530. Like that? Is that the thing? Is that what I'm doing wrong? No, it's just doing... Well, it is kind of doing some weird stuff right now at the... in a vertical way, but not really like I want. Oh, there it is. I made a small mistake. So now you can see the sorry about that. That took a while, but I was trying to figure out what was happening. So now you can see that the beam is moving in and out in a like a almost like a worm. And I want to tweak that as well, because right now I think it's a little bit unnoticeable. So I'm gonna go in here, wobble scale, wobble, wobble, wobble. Put that on 1. Yep, that's great. Add it here as well. And then apply it here. And now I can do this. Oh, look at that. I can make it completely flat, but I can also make it pretty heavy. Alright. Let's see, what else can we do? I think that the coloring right now is quite alright. Do you guys have any ideas? I mean, this is basically a little bit about what I wanted to show you, about what you can do. I can show some other weird stuff maybe, but yeah, this is basically what I wanted to show you about creating the beam. I thought this was going to be a little bit longer. I can tweak some more parameters. Summer asks, Joran, could you add an outline? I guess I can try, but I might need to read a little bit somewhere here and there. But you know what? I'm just gonna try. That's a difficult one though, because basically what I have to do is render it twice. I mean, the cheapest way to do it is by basically copying it and scaling it a little bit and put it in the back like that. And then you can already, well, not entirely. That's a difficult one, Samar. Nick says, I want to see what it looks like blue. Hold on. There's a couple of questions coming in. I'm going to read them first. Let's see. So, Nick says, can you make it blue? I'll try. That's one thing I can do. Then, Substrate says, could you make the inner radius on a scale? I don't really get that. What do you mean by that? Could you make the inner radius on a scale? If you give a little bit more explanation, I'll try. But right now, I'm gonna make it blue because that's a pretty good request. So basically, that happens down here. I'm saying I want it to be green, and I want the other colors to be 1 minus the amount it extrudes. So we can play around with it a little bit. So no green. Let's see what that does. Ooh, no, that's not what I wanted. I think I'm gonna have to move this over here, and yeah, it's becoming a little bit better. Not entirely my kind of color, so it would look like this in the game. So let's tweak it a little bit. Let's take these values for the blue for the green channel and multiply them by a factor, so it's not as heavy. Ah, look at that. Ooh, this is pretty. This looks magical already. Oh, I know a thing that we can try. One thing that's pretty Substrate. So the inner yellow part, could you drive how thin it is with a scale slider, like on a screw the inside? Oh, right. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, let's do that. One thing I can show you as well is something called Bloom, which is pretty awesome. I'm gonna do that real quick. There's this thing. Turn this off real quick. There's this thing in Unity called Bloom, which is pretty awesome because you can, I don't know if you can see that, but it makes it all look a little bit more glowy. Like that. If I turn it off, you'll see the difference. See, it looks a little bit more like it's glowing, which is pretty awesome. The inner part, can I change that? Yes. Basically, what needs to happen is that right now I can scale. Oh no, not yet. I can try to scale those blue parts, like these blue wobbles. So right now it's done with a function right here, the bulge amount, and the bulge amount is just scaled right now. I can do it like that. Add it here, and bulge scale here as well. Bulge scale. All right. Let's do that from. Let's have some fun. Let's do from -10 to 10. So I have it right here. Click this. Go into the game. So there's the bulge scale. And you can see, ooh, I can do some pretty weird stuff right now. This is actually looking pretty funky. So I'm scaling the amount these parts can come out of the out of the cylinder. And you can see some pretty radical changes already. I mean, I can imagine Samar animating this like whir, whir, in when the wizard spawns its beam. One thing as well that we might want to do is maybe make the beam a little bit thinner on the end, on the edge, but that's maybe something for later. I'm gonna keep it like that. A little bit less wobble scale, so it's a little less, right, like that, and a little bit less of that. So now we're getting somewhere. One other thing that we can change is the amount of threads. Like if you see this as a screw, we could change the amount of thread that's on this screw. So let's tweak that as well, because right now it's just a hard programmed value. So let's call that threads in here, threads, and make it 0 to, let's say, 200. Right now it should be 50. Alright, add it here, float, and then of course again here. If we go back, we have this new cool thing called threads, and you can actually make a whole lot more. And then increase the speed again. Thank you, Relaxo Man, for starting the stream because you saw a girl. That kind of hurts, but all right. The beard. So you like girls with beards, then I guess. All right, I can imagine, but that's all right.
Maybe it was a compliment.
Maybe it was a compliment. Oh man, all right. You kind of threw me off here, man. I don't know what you. I have to say, I don't quite know what you expected then. So we changed the. We added some parameters like the noise scale that we have, and the wobble scale that we have, and we can scale this as well, which is pretty cool. We can add threads or remove them. I think that's pretty cool as well. And now I'm not sure what to call this. So actually this was what's supposed to be the threads, but let's call this the detail. There's one thing that we still can tweak, and that's the detail. Let's go from 1 to 10. It's at 5 right now. Right here. All I'm doing is making sure that I give a lot of information that I can give to Samar, our artist, to play around with. So we have detail now. And what detail does is add more. This can be a bit better. It adds more threads to the screw. So you can see if I increase this, there's more and more and more, and I can do this as well. Now it's becoming really funky. I think this is too much. So let's keep threads at 100, and this maybe at I think 8 looks pretty cool. Maybe increase the speed a little bit. And we can also change the properties of the object itself. I mean, we can scale this a little bit so it's not as wide. We can make it wide and less wide. I think there's stuff happening in the comments. I confirm to be a girl. How comes the animation jitters when you slide the speed scale but doesn't jitter on the other ones? Alright, basically what happens, this happens because the speed is a multiplication of the time. So right now what I'm doing is I take the time that has passed, and the time is, it starts at 0 and then it goes on until infinity. So every second that passed will be added to that time property. You can see it in here. Here's the time property. Let's see, where is it? Here. Here's the time. And the time property just is a property that keeps growing by the amount of seconds that has passed. And all I'm doing is add a multiplication to that. So say the time is 1 second that has passed. Then when I change the speed scale, it actually does 1 times 10. So then it's 10. And if 2 seconds have passed, then it's 2 times 10. It's 20, 30, 50. If I change the speed to 100, then it's 100, 200, 300, depending on how many seconds has passed. So the more seconds that pass, the more jittery it will become to change that speed. One thing that you can do is instead of just using the time right now as a current value, is see how much time has passed and add that to your to some other property or something. But that's not really something for now, because I think that once we settle on a speed, we kind of stick to it. On the other hand, it would be nice to tweak it. So I don't really know how to approach that right now, because the problem with shader code is that every time the code is being called to render again, everything that happened in the previous frame of your application is gone. There's no way to remember what happened in the previous state of your shader. So you would have to create code around that, and that's a little bit out of scope right now. So yeah, is there anything else you guys would like to see? I mean, I've done pretty much all the cool and fun stuff so far. There are some properties I could still do, like the amount of noise or anything else. But if anything has a cool idea for the shader, then I'd like to hear it. I mean, I can play around with the noise value a little bit more, I guess, in this. Let's see what happens, for example, if we take the noise amount and apply that. Oh, it's yellow again. That's not what I wanted. Maybe like this. No. Can you show what's behind the background in game? What do you mean? Like, how the background is being built? Because then I would have to change the project real quick. I can do that. I can give some more insight in how. I mean, it is maybe nice to have some more insight in how the game works in the background, like what stuff is happening. If that's what you mean. It reminds you of your toothpaste. Well, yeah, this is actually kind of a toothpaste kind of. Maybe we would have a dentist wizard that shoots aqua fresh beams. I don't know. But what do you mean by the backgrounds in the game? I can switch real quick, maybe. Oh, that's ugly. Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm just gonna open the project, because I'm running out of stuff to talk about for this. So I'm just gonna open the other project and see. You can see how the game works if you have Unity open, because we built everything in Unity. So let's just run the game and see what happens. And I can, in the island background, what's behind it? Well, I can show you, but it's, oh dear, I'm gonna mute this real quick. What's behind the islands? Well, I'm gonna open a trial, and if you take a look at what's happening in the background, so I can pause the game at any time, and I can go into the scene, and you can see that this is everything that's in the screen right now. You won't see everything. For example, this little wizard here is not in the camera, because the camera is right here. That bright white line in here, that's what the camera can see. So the wizard is just outside the camera until it pops in. Poof, there it is, and now you can see it's in the camera. And this is the 2D view of the game, but I can turn on the 3D view. And this is what you'll see. It's not, there is nothing behind it. It's just images. You can move them around a little bit. For example, this is the background, so I can move that. And in the game it will look exactly the same, because it's 2D. But I can move this around. and there's different layers in there. So I have, for example, the gradient, that's the blue thing in the back. And I have the clouds. Magic in the background. And there's the landscape. Well, there are some pretty cool things in other modes. I can show you, for example, the puzzle. The puzzle has a cool... Oh, I can show you the puzzle shader. That's pretty funny as well. For example, you can see in the puzzle mode that the background... Ooh, it's all the way over there. The backgrounds wobble a little bit. If you look very closely, right here, no, yes, here, you can see the background of the desert is actually wobbling a little bit, like it's really hot in the desert. And I can open that shader, distortion, open it, and I can play around with these values as well. So now I have this, open it, and I can make it go nuts by changing the parameters. So now you can see what's happening if I make it even stronger. And if I open it again and make it even worse, you can actually see what's happening in the background of the shader. What makes it go wobble wobble wobble. So this would be, I guess, Tricky Towers during a dubstep concert or something. I don't know. But this is all the stuff that we're doing to make the game look more pretty. It must be 200 degrees Celsius. I can tell you it's pretty hot there. So this is basically what we're doing to make the game more pretty. And there's a whole lot of stuff happening, like the beams here, everything you see has some kind of effect on it that makes it look more pretty. So you can, for example, go to the race. And one thing that we did is when a brick falls in the water, this is actually one of the first shaders that we wrote. One of the first things that I tried doing is that when a brick falls in the water, I'll pause it real quick, there it is. Then, oh, there we are. I can open up the bricks. There it is. There's a shader on here that takes the graphic, and the more the brick is in the water, the more blue it will get. And that's stuff that we can tweak as well. I mean, there's a shader on here somewhere. And just like I could tweak the other stuff, I can tweak this as well. So I can change how high the water is. I can change the water color. I can change the color of the brick itself, which is kind of weird, but you can do that. For example, if you want to make all bricks black or red. So these are all kind of small things in shader code that help us make the game more pretty. If you guys don't have any more questions, then I guess it's time for me to wrap up this stream. I got about 5 more minutes, so if you have a couple of questions, now is your time to ask. Anything. Maybe you want to know something about the game, or about why I'm talking about code so much. Anything. You can, and I'll see if I can find something interesting in survival, for example. I'll show you survival real quick, see how that is built up. So, survival as well, it's just a background. I like to think as some kind of this as some kind of panorama, like oh no, not a panorama. I forgot the name. Like what version control does your team use? That's a pretty technical question. We use Git a lot. We love it. Nick is asking how the wind works in puzzle mode. If by wind you mean the sand that is blowing over all over the ground. Oh, I messed this shader up pretty bad. Let's see if I can fix that like that. If you mean the stuff that's here on the floor, it looks really complicated, but actually it's pretty easy. If I go in here, sand is built up from these sprites, and these sprites basically have a texture of sand, and that texture just moves around. And it's just a couple of layers on top of each other. And this sand in the foreground has a shader that makes it wobble. Like you can see if you look really close that it's wobbling a lot. So we take that, and then we have the the sand in the background. That's actually just a couple of sprites that we move around. Oh. Nick didn't mean that. Do you mean the wind as in how bricks get blown away? Because that's not really something you can see. That's more like a code thing. I can explain how it works, but that's more like a, hey, this is, I mean, I could show you the code, but you wouldn't get any further. Basically, I can tell you what, oh, I'm gonna retry this. Basically what happens is, there's this thing in our code that's looking at the world, and step by step. So I'll take this for example. You can see a lot of weird stuff happening. So you have these bricks. Alright, Nick says I meant that. Alright, so basically what happens, you have these bricks, and these bricks have shapes. And those shapes determine how they collide in the world. Christian says, can you change the field text to say, get good? I could, but that's for another time. I'm gonna explain the wind, and that's it for now today. Basically what happens is there's this invisible piece of code that you can't really see, that goes from the bottom of your tower, takes a step upwards, checks from left to right. It basically shoots like a laser. You can't really see it, but it shoots a laser from left to right. And anytime it touches something, so it will go from left to right, bloop, 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 touch something, and if it finds something to touch, it applies a tiny amount of force. Just like going with your finger forward, and you know what, I'm just gonna switch to the camera. There we are. So this is your brick, and there is this line coming from the left, and you move, and then you touch the brick, and you apply a little bit of force. And you do that from bottom to top, every time. And we keep doing that, and sometimes we make it a little bit stronger, and then we make it a little bit weaker. But that's what's making the wind and push the towers over. And to explain it a little bit more to players who are like, hey, what's happening? We actually added a particle. Particles are like tiny graphics that, oh, it's still me in the screen, hold on. There we are. Hey, the particle's not in the single player race. Maybe it's only in the multiplayer one. I'll have to look into that later. But we show it as a particle to show that there's more wind. I'm gonna have to wrap it up because it's time for me to go. So thank you for joining. I had a good time. Hope you had a good time as well. It was pretty exciting for me because this is the first time I've done some live programming. Maybe I'll do it again if you like it. Leave a comment on our Twitter or our Facebook or our Reddit and tell us what you think. And we're back this Tuesday with another stream, and then we're playing against the community again. So if you want to join us in some matches, then add us on Steam or PS4, and we'll see you there. So for now, thanks for watching, and have a great day, and almost weekend, almost just one day left, and I'll see you around. So bye.